guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends, 2 videos in 1 day. Thank you guys for all the support here lately. It's really cool. I am so excited about Doom Tower. However, I'm still bitter about using some of my keys on normal mode. I thought the keys were going to be different, but I'm glad in the earlier video today, I am not the only one to do that. So that's good news. Now, I just got my next 5 keys, reset at the time of this recording was a couple hours ago. Well, today we're going to talk about, by the way, the top 20 rare champions inside the game for Doom Tower. I'm going to talk about specific rare champions that have abilities that you don't find in your average rare champion, even that you don't find in a lot of epic champions. So these are champions that I would suggest you guys really kind of invest in if you're looking for help in any specific area. There's a lot of secret rooms with special rules. So instead of tackling one boss or one mini boss or one dungeon or one secret room, instead we're just going to talk about kind of the scope of my favorite 20 rare champions inside the game as it pertains to some areas that we know inside Doom Tower. First, and I'm going to do this on the next few videos if you guys don't mind, feel free to fast forward a minute or so if you don't care, but I'm going to show you the progress that I'm making. Secret Room 2 right now, I am holding down 4th place in the world with 40 seconds here. By the way, guys, kind of a more friendly video. The content here on the channel will be focused mainly on not all-star whale teams like you're going to see right now in this update, but mostly, okay, what sort of substitutions can you guys actually use to actually compete and do well and just complete these levels, not go for the best, but maybe, go for the best in your clan. Anyway, we're holding down 3rd place right now in 415. We have, basically we're top 5 or at least top 10 in every floor right now at the time of this recording. We're 2nd place right now in floor 13, which was very challenging. And here comes Charlie. You don't want to hear about the pay to win, do you? You don't want to hear about Deada's pay to win. Come here, baby. So anyway, guys, I'm not going to go through every single floor, but I'm just going to kind of catch you guys up on what I've been working on. And we have a visitor here today. Say hi. No, wave over there. Say hi. No, up here. Okay. Hi, Charlie. So today we're going to talk about rare champions. You like rare champions? Yeah. Me too. All right, sorry about that, guys. Unexpected guest there, waking up from Betty. So today, top 20 rare champions for Doom Tower, to prepare for Doom Tower, because it's going to get challenging as we go. Right now, it seems easy. It's going to get tough, guys. I can already tell by some of the difficulty in these levels scaling rather quickly. It does seem rather easy depending on where you are, what difficulty you are in, when you start playing the game. But these are champions that I would recommend. Champions that I, honestly, some of these champions intend on using. Reliquary Tender is one of my favorite champions in the game. You guys know that. She has a decreased attack, weak version on the A1. On the A2, remove all debuffs from all allies, and then a 15% continuous heal on them for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Reliquary Tender is so unique in the fact that she has a debuff removal with the strong version of continuous heal on a 3-turn cooldown. That is a money ability. It's so unique for a rare champion, and she has the revival. You put that all in the same kit, she's one of the best support champions out there. Certainly, even if she was an epic, I would advise you guys use her. That's how good she is. Revives an ally with 30% HP and fills their turn meter by 30% on a 5-turn cooldown. Nice to have that revival in case things get tough, which they will in Doom Tower. Reliquary Tender is a champion that you guys know I'm such a huge fan of. Obviously, Apothecary, and I want to apologize to you guys. I try to, be responsible with the information that I give you guys, and I was just having a total brain fart moment where on my last video, I was like, Apothecary is a great lead for you guys in Doom Tower. No, it's dungeons. And just to be very clear, I put it in the pinned comment, but I want to remind you guys again that auras that work in dungeons or faction wars or anything are not going to work in Doom Tower. There's a new type of aura in the game that's only applicable to Doom Tower that's on some of the new champions that are acquirable in farming fragments in Doom Tower, but other champions with auras that work in all battles will work in Doom Tower. So put definitely a priority or an emphasis on those champions, all battle auras, but dungeons will not work. However, Apothecary is still a great champion. He has an increased speed 30%, obviously, on all allies 2 turns, fills the turn meter of 15% as well. You guys know about Apothecary. He's a beast. And then a great heal on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. Fantastic champion. Obviously, a great support champion to help you guys out. In terms of high elves, anybody else who I really want to talk about here? I don't think so. There's some good high elf champions who are not going to mention in today's video, but those are the 2 that I specifically would think about investing in. Speaking of investing, a bonus epic that I'm working on right now, a guide for you guys, is Vergis, man. He's a really good champion, or Vergis. I don't freaking know how to pronounce half these names, guys. Cut me some slack. All right, so those are the high elves that I have for you guys. Let's go ahead and just kind of move down the line here. Bannerlords. I don't think I have any Bannerlords that I really want to discuss in today's video. Let's go ahead and go to Sacred Order. I do have a list of 20 kind of in my head, so we'll make sure we'll try to make sure that we get to all of these. You know what? There's a lot of decent Sacred Order champions as well, but again, we're going to skip right by them right now, at least. Actually, no. How could I forget? The guy who's on the thumbnail is Draconis. You guys know about him. I talked about him in my last video. I really love Draconis, guys. I really do. I personally think he's a top 10 rare champion inside the entire game. Has a heal that allows the lowest HP by 7.5% of the damage inflicted, which is actually a pretty good heal on the A1. Nice to have that because it's based on the damage inflicted, okay? On the A2, a shield buff on all allies equal to 15% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. And on the A3, attack one enemy, removes all debuffs from the ally with the lowest HP, and then heals them by 25% again of the damage inflicted on an Order of Mercy ability that actually hits pretty hard. So you're going to want to build him out with 100% crit rate, of course, because you want him to at least be doing maximum critical damage, and he is a Void Affinity, so there's no weak affinity mashup, so he's always going to be hitting with those strong critical hits, ergo doing more healing to your team, right? So Draconis is a solid champion. The shield really comes in clutch as well. You build him out to have a lot of HP, and even put a shield set on him if you want to as well, because you're building him up to be a high HP champion because of this the shield as well. So that's Draconis. Next up, we're going to go ahead and move over to, I'm just going to go in the order that I have them written down here, and it is, of course, Warmaiden, and we talked about this at the beginning of the video, champions with very unique abilities, and Warmaiden is the definition of that for rare champion. She's farmable, very, very easy to get, and easy to book up and level up and rank up. Well, I guess easy to get and book up, I should say, because you can use the duplicates of her to book her up totally. But Crumbling Blast is, excuse me, is her big money ability, has the strong version of decrease defense on an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown. That's all you need to know about Warmaiden, really, guys. She also actually puts out a decent amount of damage, so that's really cool too, right? So she can be a debuffer and also has a little bit of nukage. She packs a punch, you know. Soulbound Boyar is another champion who I would strongly advise you guys consider. She does have an AoE on her A1. All of her skills have an additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit, so you only have to build her to 75% crit rate, which is nice. That affords you the luxury of putting her in those crit damage gauntlets. Okay, she has a chance to ignore 75% of the target's defense on the A2. That's really, really big. Not insane multipliers on this A2. Kind of a word of warning. If it was, she'd be unbelievable, right? She'd be like a faceless with an AoE on the A1. However, it's not that crazy damage, but still, it does ignore defense. It's she's worth building. She's a damage dealer for your team. And then she has a 75% chance, it can be booked up to full, of fully depleting the target's turn meter on the Soulbound shot. That's a unique ability, the full turn meter depletion, to have on the A3. The other barbarian, guys, the third barbarian we have is Marked. So Marked, also talking about unique abilities. I believe only 2 rare champions, the other ones obviously on this list as well, have the ability to have an increased defense and a block debuff, so an increased defense on all allies for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown of totemic power, and block debuffs on there for 1 turn. Really, really solid ability, and the block debuffs can come in clutch as well. So Marked is definitely a champion worth considering, especially if you don't have an increased defense champion on a 3-turn cooldown. And again, the block debuffs, nice to have in that kit as well. This is an alternative to a champion like Grizzled Jarl. If you guys don't have him in the epic category, you can definitely get by with a Marked or a Doom's Creature, will be coming up in a second here on this video. So those are the barbarians that I wanted to talk about. Let's go ahead and move over to the Ogryn tribe. One champion who we're already seeing really shine in Doom Tower is Bellower. I spoke about him in my last video, guys, but it bears mentioning again. He has so many debuffs, granted always the weak version of them, but there's so much that he carries in terms of overall utility. You can put him in a nuke build, or you can put him, especially, you know, 90% of you guys who are worried more about progression, worried more about surviving in this game, you build him into be kind of a stun champion, a CC champion, and a debuffer with high accuracy. And again, you get the decreased speed, you get the block cooldown skills, you get the decreased attack and the decreased defense. Everything's an AoE with Bellower. Very, very solid champion to have. Obviously, Faction Wars Aura not going to help you out, but Bellower is a champion certainly worth considering and investing in inside the game. So up next, who do we have? And that's my only Ogryn Tribe champion that I want to talk about in today's video. In terms of Lizardmen, I don't think we have any selected here. Skinwalkers, we do have one. So the Skinwalker, there's actually a few kind of, I don't know, call it like underrated. Oops, we're in the epics there, Ash. There's a couple like kind of underrated, in my opinion at least, rare champions out there, but Gnarlhorn is the guy that I really wanted to focus on. He's an HP based champion here. On the A1, damage increases according to how much HP this champion has lost, and this attack cannot be strong, critical, or weak. So interesting, it's always kind of a neutral hit despite the spirit affinity, and then has a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Increased defense, weak version on this champion for 2 turns. So the reason we want to mention Gnarlhorn in today's video is because on a 3-turn cooldown, to be landing an AoE provoke is very, very rare, forgive the pun, or no pun intended. It's a really good ability to have in War Drum. So if you're struggling with CC, some of you guys in the comments, I see, Ash, I don't have any of these CC champions you're talking about, miscreated monsters, etc., etc. Well, go with a Gnarlhorn. A Gnarlhorn paired with a champion like Syl of the Drakes, we mentioned in yesterday's video, that's going to give you a lot of CC. You add the Bellower to that in a stun set, you have all the CC you probably need for most dungeons, most Doom Tower levels. On the A3, an unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turns. So he's provoking, and then he's keeping himself alive with unkillable on a 3-turn cooldown, and of course the weak version of increased defense. So you're looking on an AoE provoke champion to have some sort of mechanism in there to keep them alive at the same time. Has allied defense in dungeons, not going to help you out in Doom Tower, but still a very, very good champion for dungeons as well. Gnarlhorn, definitely a champion that I should do a full guide on. A champion worth building up, certainly, at least in the opinion of yours truly. Now let's move on to Orcs. Now, I'm actually going to include one of the 2 starting champions in today's video. I think Galek is actually a pretty solid champion. I want to say he has the 4th highest multipliers on his attack, so offensively, he's a beast, man. He's a juggernaut. He does have a 2-time attack on the A1. He has the increased speed buff on this champion for 2 turns with an AoE attack, has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit as well. And then on the A3, 4 times at random, and then has a 40% chance of placing the weak version of decreased defense for 2 turns, 40% chance of strong version if the target has more than 2 debuffs. So if you kind of build the debuff team around Galek, he's solid. Either way, unfortunately, this Cursed Blade is not an AoE attack. It's 4 times at random, so the consistency of laying even the weak version of decreased defense isn't the best, and it is a 40% chance as well. So, you know, did I say 60? No, I said 60% decreased defense. So, you know, 40% chance, it's not insane, but it does good damage. So I do think that Galek, especially if you're early game watching this video right now, I think you can get by with Galek, and you can even use him in Doom Tower. He does not scale, I just want to, you know, be upfront, as well as some of the other champions we mentioned in today's video, the Bellowers, the Reliquary Tenders, does not scale as well into the mid in the end game. Just take that into your consideration, but he is a solid champion at that, and he does have an all battles HP, as all the starters do, by 15%, so you can use his aura in Doom Tower. So that's all we have in terms of Orc champions on today's list, and by the way, I would pretty much consider these, you know, maybe plus or minus a few. I would consider them the best rare champions in the game overall as well. Diabolist, I did a guide on her recently. She's really good in terms of turn meter specialist. She has a sleep on the A1, whatever. On the A2, she has an AoE attack, increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. A great option if you don't have, you know, an apothecary unlocked, or, you know, you want to try out a different team. Having that increased speed is nice, minus the turn meter. However, on positive charge on a 4-turn cooldown, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. So again, we mentioned this before, but it's kind of like a miniature version of Lyssandra's Energize. Really nice to have a champion like Diabolist in your, you know, your toolkit if you need that speed plus that turn meter. All right, guys, so next up and the last up in Demon Spawn is going to be none other than Fellhound. He is known for his A1, has an AoE attack, an amazing campaign farmer, has decreased speed as well on his A1. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching probably use him as your campaign farmer if you're lucky enough to have him. He is Void Affinity, so a little bit tougher to get. But the beauty of him too, aside from him being a great campaign farmer and having the AoE on the A1, is this Flameborn Vigor ability is on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. That's really special because it has a continuous heal, albeit a weak version, but it's for 2 turns and it's on a 2-turn cooldown. So think about that. You consistently always have a continuous heal buff on your allies and the reflect damage on top of that. So really solid to have, and then has a block damage buff on any ally for 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown on the deflect. So you guys can already see a very well-rounded support champion with a decent, again, AoE attack on the A1. It brings a lot to the table. Even having the weak version of decreased speed is helpful if you don't have another decreased speed champion on the team. The decreased speed is an underrated debuff in my opinion. So that's all we have for Demon Spawn here, guys. Let's move on along here in Undead Horde. You guys know one of my faves is in Undead Horde, and it is this fella right over here, Doomscreech. I did a full guide on Doomscreech the other, week, I guess 2 weeks ago. I'll include all the guide links I can think of in this video description. Has a decreased accuracy on the A1, whatever, but this is what makes him special here. Again, on a 3-turn cooldown, has the turn meter fill by 30% and the increased defense. Compare that to Marked 3-turn cooldown, who spoke about earlier this video, right? And she has the block debuffs for 1 turn, but Warning Screech on a 3-turn, strong version of increased defense in the 30% turn meter every 3 turns. That's a really nice boost to kind of bring your entire team along. A very unique champion to have this skill, Warning Screech, and it keeps getting better. Shelter's not a bad ability either. Doesn't have an incredible damage potential. He's really not a damage champion, but his HP is nice and high enough that you can actually get an HP, build him, with a lot of HP and put a shield set on him as well. Kind of like Draconis, a good shield set candidate if you're worried about progression when the going gets tough in Doom Tower. So it has a shield buff equal to 30% max HP on this champion for 2 turns. Damage increases according to this champion's current HP on Shelter. And again, everything's based on HP, a very easy champion to build because really, you don't even, depending on how much you want this decreased accuracy, you can just ignore accuracy on him overall. I think I did in the build that I had with him, so it's really up to you guys. If you want that decreased accuracy, by all means, build him with about a 200 accuracy, but you can totally ignore that and just go HP, 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 maybe throw on War Master as well, and you'll be getting a decent amount of damage and a lot of support from this champion. Next up is going to be, I have to include Frozen Banshee on this list because, well, she's unique. She has poison sensitivity, the only rare in the game to have poison sensitivity, one of the only champions in the game, well, albeit some of the new champions more recently with Doom Tower do have it as well, but for a while she was a rarity, again, no pun intended, with the poison sensitivity on the Frostblight ability, and then she has the turn meter fill on the A2 for each debuff on the target, which is nice to have, and then again she has the strong version of poison on the A1 as well. She's bringing a lot to the table regarding a poison type champion who we think is going to be useful against a variety of different bosses in Doom Tower. So I think Frozen Banshee is always a good bet to invest in because of her kind of, again, her unique skill set, which is the theme of today's video. To have kind of one of these champions kind of fitting every niche category you could possibly need. That way you always have options depending on what you're facing. So Frozen Banshee definitely gets a nod in today's video as well. I'll give an honorable mention to Seducer, who's a solid champion, but he didn't really make my top 20 list. I guess somebody has to be excluded, right? And I guess that's all I have for Undead Horde as well. Let's keep it moving here, guys. Dark Elves has a lot of great rare champions. Starting with Kale. What do I gotta say about Kale? You guys know Kale, right? I mean, he has the weak version of poison on the A1, strong version of poison on the A3, and he has the really cool Acid Rain ability, 3-turn cooldown with the turn meter fill for each enemy killed. So nice against waves. He's a good campaign farmer. He's a good wave farmer, and then he's good against bosses too. And that's what makes Kale so special. A champion like Galek, like Aethel, like Elaine, the other starting champions, they're good in maybe 1 or 2 areas of the game. Kale is really good against waves and bosses, and that makes him really unique and really cool, and you can put it out at just a sick amount of damage. So Kale will always be a solid champion, and again, he does have that aura just like Galek that you can use as a team lead inside Doom Tower. So that is Kale. Let's see, moving right along here, who else do we have? Obviously Cold Heart, man. She has the AoE attack. Art of Pain is a pretty hard-hitting AoE attack on the A2, and then she has a 4-time hitter with 100% heal reduction on the A1. She serves so many kind of possible, uses. If you need heal reduction, you've got it. You need a 4-time hitter on an A1, you got it. You need an AoE with a poison decreased accuracy, you got that too. You need a sick 1 million to 3 million damage hard-hitting ability based on enemy max HP, you got it. And of course, last but not least, do you need the decreased target's turn meter by 100%? Yes, she has that too. Needless to say, Cold Heart is and probably always will be in my top 3 rares inside the entire game. Next up is actually not Spirit Host. No disrespect to Spirit Host. It's Hexweaver. Sorry, I get those guys confused, or those ladies, excuse me, confused. Hexweaver is a champion we don't talk about that much on the channel, but I wanted to give her a nod. I think Hexweaver and Gnarlhorn are 2 champions that we don't give a lot of love here, and I think we probably should. I probably should build these champions out and give them a full kind of spotlight for you guys. But on the A2, she has a heal all allies by 15% of their max HP on a 3-turn cooldown if you're looking for a pretty solid AoE heal on a 3-turn. And then she has the increased crit rate and increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So another option for speed, and it's nice to have that crit rate. Sometimes you want to build a team and you just can't get your nukers built out in crit damage gauntlets. You can't find enough crit rate. You don't have the artifacts to find enough crit rate to get everybody up to 100% crit rate. Well, you have a Wings of Doom type ability, and at least for 2 out of every 3 turns, and you build it to be nice and fast, she's got a decent base speed at 101, at least you can build your champions. You still want to try for 100% because you're not always going to have Hexweaver on the team, but you can build them to be a little bit shy of 100% and use her as kind of a tool to make sure you're still consistently landing, especially those AoE attackers, your Kales, your Galeks, all the champions that we mentioned in this video so far. So I think that Hexweaver is a solid champion. She might not be as good, I guess. I don't know. She's on that cusp of being top 20 to me, but I wanted to give her kind of a mention because we don't really talk about her a lot here on the channel. Next up is going to be Painkeeper, a champion we do talk about quite a bit here on the channel. She has fills this champion's turn meter by 10% on her A1 2-time hitter, and then she has attacks all enemy, then heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP on a 4-turn cooldown. That's really sweet. I built her out in a shield set as well, the 3rd shield set champion we've talked about in today's video, because you're healing based on her HP anyway. She's got a solid base HP at 19k, just makes a lot of sense. And then Combat Tactics is a very, very good ability. Decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn on a 4-turn cooldown. Doesn't sound like much, but in a prolonged battle, which Doom Tower is going to have plenty of as we climb the ladder, that's really going to help you out. It's going to let all of your allies do what they do best more often, much more often throughout the duration of a long battle. A lot of people know Painkeeper from running her in unkillable comps. I run her on an unkillable clan boss comp, so a good champion to invest in outside just Doom Tower as well. So that is Hexweaver, Painkeeper, and Kale, and Cold Heart. Okay, we are running through, guys. We only have 3 more champions. I can't believe we already talked about 16 champions already, or 17 champions already, my bad. So let's see. Knight Revenant. Executioner is not bad, but we're not going to give him the love. I actually want to talk about a champion, another one that we don't talk about a ton here, and it's Renegade. Renegade is a champion worth building, guys. On the A1, we have the 100% heal reduction, another good ability to have on an A1. Granted, it is a 50% chance of landing. That's actually a 60% chance, a 50% chance of landing, my bad. That's actually not too bad. On the A2, attacks at random 3 times, okay? Has a 75% chance win book to placing a 15% decreased speed for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, and then place a decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns if the target has any active buffs. Not a bad ability on a 3-turn cooldown. But here it is, Sacrificial Ritual. On a 5-turn cooldown, this is her big moneymaker ability that we talk about on other champions as well, and this is unique decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. This skill does not affect this champion or other champions with this skill. This champion will receive damage equal to 30% of their max HP, and this will happen even if it kills the champion. So this is decreasing the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns on a 5 turn. So we talked about Painkeeper. It's 1 turn on a 4 turn. This one, a little bit different, a little bit better subjectively. It's 2 turns on a 5 turn, if that makes sense to you guys, if you follow where I'm at here. And it's really useful to have this ability again for the same reason, without repeating it all, that we just talked about on Painkeeper. So a really, really solid champion. She has an ally resistant all battles by 40. Who knows? Maybe you'll need her as an aura lead, or maybe you don't have another all battle rare champion or champion at all to run in the team lead spot. So that's an option for you guys as well if you want a little bit of extra resist on your squad. That is Renegade, and now we're down to Dwarves, guys, and there's 2 that I have to mention here. They're the 2 new guys. Not Painsmith, my bad. Where are you, man? My bad, guys. Man, these dwarfs, they all look the same. Dilgal, my man! Alright, so Dilgal on the A1 has a decreased speed. On the A2, attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns. Shot Spray is a great ability if you want that decreased accuracy. 50% decreased accuracy is big. It cuts their accuracy. Need I say this to you guys? But think about it. It cuts the enemy's accuracy in half. That's really solid on a 3-turn cooldown, and it hits pretty well too. It doesn't hit super hard, but it's hitting twice. It's a 2-time hitter. So really nice to have Shot Spray. And then on Big Game Hunter, this is a harder hitting ability. This guy can put out some damage. He's not a best nuker in the game, but he can put out some damage. You'll be impressed with his numbers. Attacks 1 enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 40, 50, 65% chance of placing a decreased defense big version for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. So that's Dilgal. Again, nice to have that decreased defense. Pretty consistent because each hit has an independent, again, 65% chance. You add Sniper, we're talking about a 70% chance to land that big version of decreased defense. Great against bosses as well. So that's Dilgal. And the other guy we want to talk about is, there he is, Avir the Alchemage. I'm a big fan of this dude. I did a whole guide on him. He has a poison chance, strong version of poison at a 45% rate on the A1 is solid for any champion, let alone a rare. And then on the A2, attacks all enemies, has a decreased attack for 2 turns, and that can be booked all the way up to 100%. Really solid to have 100% decreased attack for 2 turns, and then a decreased speed on targets under poison debuffs. Okay, now the Corroding Catalyst, right? AoE attack on a 3-turn cooldown with a decreased attack is solid, but it actually does a decent amount of damage as well. Just like Dilgal, he's not like a super OP nuker, but you put him in, again, War Master, and he's really going to help you. In Dragon 20, if I put him on a team that's, maybe a couple epics, maybe a Sill the Drakes, and maybe a couple rares, he's putting out around 600 to 800,000 damage in good gear, but not god tier gear. Like 6-star artifacts, but not all legendary artifacts, and crit rate gauntlets, not crit damage. Like not all savage, end game gear. But I would say like mid-end game in that range. Fills his champion's fills a tournament of allies by 15%, and then heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP on a 4-turn cooldown. Again, just kind of a nice addition to an already really decent, solid kit in Avir the Alchemage. So again, guys, I hope that we talked about not just 20 rare champions, but 20 rare champions that bring something to the table that can actually help you guys out in Doom Tower progression or in other areas of the game. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know which champions I forgot. Let me know what you think of Doom Tower, guys. Thanks, and as always, take care, guys.